What's up everyone, Colt Capperrune here. Thank you for joining me for yet another video. Today I want to go over whether or not you should move to Nashville for your music career. Is it worth moving here? What are the benefits? What are the pros and what are the cons of moving to Nashville if you actually want a career in music? Before we get started, if you haven't yet, I would love it if you would subscribe. Hit the subscribe tab and the bell icon next to it so you get alerted when I drop sweet videos. And give me a thumbs up on this video and drop me a comment. Let me know what your favorite or your least favorite thing about Nashville is. I have plenty of both. So recently I have seen a ton of people share an article in which Sturgill Simpson was quoted saying, hold on, "Don't come to Nashville, get a van and start playing elsewhere." Now I'll drop a link to this article in the description of this video if you want to read the entire article. One of the things that's interesting to me is it's becoming increasingly popular to kind of play the underdog. You know, Billie Eilish winning a bunch of Grammys out of her bedroom, and Sturgill Simpson saying that you shouldn't move to Nashville, you should play elsewhere, and Dave Grohl saying get in your garage and just suck for a bunch of years, just write a bunch of shitty songs and suck until things start not to suck anymore. Hell, even my home studio video where I was talking about my studio in an apartment bedroom in which I charted top 40 on Billboard. It's kind of a popular thing right now to play the underdog and show success coming from a very humble place and very humble beginnings. Now, while I completely agree that independent artists are the future, and yes, you need to get on the road and tour as much as possible and play as many places as humanly possible, it seems a bit disingenuous to me to play like there is no benefit in living in Music City or LA or New York or any other Atlanta, any other music city. So here are some of the parts that I think Sturgill Simpson got right. And then we're going to talk about pros and cons of actually living in Nashville for your music career. First of all, no, you are not going to pay your bills playing music in Nashville unless you're a musician down on Lower Broadway playing covers, or unless you are a session player that plays on enough studio sessions to pay your bills. Yes, being a songwriter in Nashville does have the potential to be you in a cubicle with two other songwriters feeding the machine. Yes, the cost of living is higher than most places in the country, and we're very quickly approaching LA pricing here in Nashville. Yes, there are actually 18 million songwriters and artists and bands, and yes, there are thousands or tens of thousands of producers and mix engineers and session players. Traffic is getting insanely worse by the week, and it's becoming cool and hip, if you will, to say that Nashville's full. Don't come here. Don't move here. So here are the pros and cons, in my opinion, of course, of living in Nashville, in Music City, and how that pertains to you having a career in music. Now, this information and my opinions on this is going to cross over songwriters and artists and bands and producers, mix engineers, session players, just musicians looking to play in sessions or to play for other artists on the road. So I'm originally from Peoria, Illinois, and there was a period of time where I was making my living. I was generally paying my bills playing music. I was still doing the studio thing because I've been doing this a long time, but most of my money that I was making was from playing shows. There was this weird thing that happened as Nashville was beginning to rise to one of the it cities, that some of the main clubs in Peoria, where I'm from, they really wanted Nashville bands. They really wanted artists that were from Nashville. And it was a little bit frustrating to a bunch of bands and artists in the area because we were losing gigs because these clubs wanted Nashville bands. So that says a little something about the validity that being a Nashville artist gives you. Now, there's good and bad to this, no doubt, but it is the game, and it is much easier to get traction elsewhere in the country if you are a Nashville artist. So we are all constantly growing, our skill sets are growing, Our resumes are growing. But in the 6 months prior to me moving to Nashville and the 6 months after I moved to Nashville, largely was the same person with the same skill set. I had the same ability to play guitar. I had the same production ability, the same mixing ability. I didn't grow a huge amount in the few months before moving and to the few months after I moved. However, the second I moved to Nashville and I was a Nashville producer, I started getting far more work from people elsewhere in the country. If I'm being completely honest, this really kind of annoyed me because I was frustrated that, like, I'm the same person. I am not any different than I was 4 months ago. Why am I getting more interest now just because I happen to reside in Nashville, in Music City? Eventually I got over that and I figured it's just part of it. If people are more willing to hire you because you're in Nashville, then so be it. Now there's a downside to this, obviously, that there's a bunch of people that live here that are producers or that are artists or that are in the industry that are of subpar quality and still get lots of work because they're here. That's an entirely different conversation and an entirely different video. So while it is 100% true that you need to get in a van and you need to go play everywhere else in the country if you're an artist or if you're a band, your access to these gigs, your ability to book these shows, I believe is greatly increased just because you're a Nashville artist. I saw this happen before I lived here, and now I see it from Nashville all the time. On top of that, your ability to network with other artists, with bigger, more successful artists that maybe you can open for, that maybe you can go on the road with. Your ability to network and build actual relationships with these people is so much greater when you live here and you can actually go have coffee with them and you can forge a friendship with them. It's so much easier to get traction in that way living here. Now, if you're a producer or an engineer, it is so much easier to get work because of the quantity of artists and of bands that live here in Nashville. Yes, you might argue that it's saturated. Yes, you might argue that there's a ton of people here. And yes, you may fall very low on the totem pole in terms of your physical ability, of your skill set as a producer, as an engineer. And the thing that I would say to that is, and this goes for songwriters and bands as well, the inspirational qualities of this town, what this does to you being surrounded by such incredible talent, the best producers, the best mix engineers, the best songwriters, the best artists in the world. Some of them live here, a lot of them live here. And so when you're constantly surrounded with this thing and you embed yourself into the scene, into the music scene, into the music industry here in town, it's so inspiring that it forces you to level up. You have no choice but to grow as a songwriter, as an artist, as a producer, as a mix engineer, as a guitarist, as a musician. You have no choice but to get better just by absorbing what is around you, and that is incredibly wonderful. Now, if you're just a musician, a guitarist, a drummer, a bassist, whatever, the quantity of artists that live here with which you can get a gig going on the road or playing writers' rounds, the quantity of people that make their living just playing on Broadway, the number of opportunities here is so much greater than most other places in the country. And to prove this, wherever you live, if you don't live in a big city like New York or LA or Austin or Nashville, if you don't live in one of these major music markets, I would ask you to stop and think, how many people do you know who makes a full living from playing music in your city? How many people? Now, Peoria, Illinois, where I'm from, was kind of a little hotbed of talent, and there were a lot of musicians, a lot of bands, a lot of artists. And yet, at the same time, while I was paying my bills with music, I only knew of 2 other people in the whole town who actually played full-time and didn't do anything else. And so yes, there's a ton of people here, but the opportunities far outweigh the opportunities where you're from, more than likely. Now, you as a songwriter or an artist, one of the other benefits of this is the quantity of people that you have the opportunities to work with. The number of songwriters here is staggering. Now, what that means is your ability to get in the room with people that you really connect with people that you're meant to create art with. The chances of that happening for you is drastically improved here in town because of the quantity of people that are here, as opposed to wherever small town you probably are watching from. You have 3 people, 4 people, maybe 10 people that you know of that are legit songwriters that you can write with. And at the same time, some of the very best producers and some of the very best mix engineers live here in Nashville and work here in Nashville. And so your ability as a songwriter or as an artist to work with really great people within the industry is so much greater here in town. And that's part of the reason why so many people travel to Nashville to record their music, their album, their single, whatever. If you're already one of the better songwriters, one of the better guitarists or drummers or whatever, if you're already one of the better producers or mix engineers in your town, it's incredibly hard to be inspired to grow because you are your sole limiting factor. You can't absorb inspiration from anyone around you. It's much more difficult to be motivated to level up when you are already at the top. Now, I say this as humbly as I can possibly say it. Back home, I was probably not the most talented guitarist. However, I was one of the more in-demand guitar players. And I would say that I was near or at the top as far as producers and mix engineers in the town that I came from. And because of that, I found it very difficult to be inspired to level up. It was incredibly hard to even know what leveling up meant because there wasn't anyone around me that could show me what that looked like. Then I moved to Nashville, and here I'm surrounded by some of the best people in the industry, and I feel very fortunate enough to call a lot of them friends now. These friends inspire me on a daily basis. I hear the records that they put out, I hear the records that they mixed or that they produced, and I'm so inspired on a daily or on a weekly basis because my friends just won a Grammy. My friends just released this album that is stunning, and that is so inspiring. That thing, this inspirational thing, cannot be overstated. The fact that you can be inspired in a daily way like this is so valuable, in my opinion, in terms of growth. Now, there are a few genres that I think it's probably not worth moving to Nashville for. If you're into pop, I think you're probably better off moving to LA or New York. If you're hip hop, R&B, or rap, you're probably better off moving to LA or to Atlanta. Those genres exist here and there is a considerable amount of it, but it's not the epicenter for those genres. So you're not going to gain as much benefit being here as you would if you were in country, pop country, rock country, folk, Americana, bluegrass, rock, southern rock. If you're in those genres, I really can't think of a better city to be in. And the opportunities that this city can give you in terms of how easily you can book shows elsewhere, how easily you can network with people within the industry, how easily you can network with other artists and producers and mix engineers, managers, and all the things. If you're a producer or a mix engineer that works on those genres, the quantity of people here that are potential clients for you is just so much greater than anywhere else in the country. Yes, there are major drawbacks from living in Nashville. Cost of real estate is crazy. Yes, there is an absolute ton of competition here in every way. I don't really look at anyone as competition, but there are a lot of people doing the same thing. And what I realize is all you have to do is you show up to town and you be friendly and a good hang. You be reliable. Always keep your word 100% of the time. And just don't suck. If you can do these 4 things, you will be just fine here. Yes, you have to travel outside of Nashville to make a living as an original artist. But the chances of you successfully doing that, I genuinely believe, are greater if you live in Music City. And all that said, there is no right or wrong way for anyone. You have to figure out the path that works the best for you. However, as with everything else on this channel, all I can do is discuss what I think, my thoughts on what gives you the greatest chance for success, and that's what I hope this video did. If it helped you, I'd love it if you give me a thumbs up and drop me a comment below. Don't forget to check me out on Instagram at Colt Capperrune. Don't forget to hit up my website, coltcapperrune.com. I'm going to drop a link in the description to the interview with Sturgill Simpson and to my Instagram and my website. Thank you guys for subscribing. I love each and every one of you. Have a good one.